Hi, it's Brian here, and how are you? And welcome. On today's show, we have a guest. I'm joined by Rob Goodman today.
Hello.
And Rob has a wealth of experience when it comes to acting. He's been in the industry many years, Rob? I don't know if you want to count them down, but
42 years.
42 years. There you go. So there's not much that Rob doesn't know about this industry.
Wow.
He's worked with some of the top actors you might care to mention. And he's here today to have a little chat with me about what it is that great actors say about acting, really, the advice that they give. So, Rob, I'm going to start off with a little story from the great Al Pacino. You may have heard of him.
I've heard of him, yeah.
And you may have heard of him. He gets around. He does a lot of work. Now, I met him, and I thought, if you're going to meet Al Pacino, you've got to have a good question, right? And so I thought about it. I thought, what am I going to ask Al Pacino? And it came to me. I thought, there must have been a turning point in his career or in his acting that he thought, you know what, I think I really begin to understand this stuff. And I asked him, I said, look, when was the point in your career that you thought, my acting's taking a turning and I'm beginning to feel that I understand more of this?
Good question.
Well, I thought so, Rob. I thought so. And he did too, and he had a really good answer, which was not what I was expecting, because I thought he was going to talk about, when I was in The Godfather, or when I was doing Scarface, or when I was doing whatever.
Tell me the answer.
Well, patience. So basically, he said it was when he was at school, and he was learning acting, how to act. And he said that he was carrying out this exercise, which you and I know quite well, which is private moment.
Oh, yeah. That
we carry out in method acting. So he said that the idea of the exercise, as we know, is to kind of create the feeling of being private, but you're in public, you're being watched. And encourages you to bring in things from your own home and create the environment that you have maybe at home and in your room at home. And he did that, and he brought a load of stuff, and he says, I was then beginning to do this scene, based on this private moment. And he said, you know what, I was going around there, and he said, I thought, if I did everything really small and quiet, that would be real. He said that would seem naturalistic. He says, I realised later on, he said, that that's not the case. He said, but it took me a while to understand what it was to be really real. And he said it was at this moment, he says, doing this exercise, that I really began to understand that. And what happened was that he brought in his yearbook. We don't have them here in Britain, really, Rob. I certainly don't have a yearbook from my time at high school in Glasgow. So basically, but in America, what they have is this yearbook, and you open a year page, and it's all of the people in your year at school. And he said that he was doing the same. He opened up the page where he was on, and he looked at it, and he said, at that time in my life, he said, and at that moment, he said, I really didn't like me. He said, I really didn't like myself at this point. He said, I saw that picture. He said, I wanted to rip it to pieces. So he said, I wanted to rip the whole thing apart. And he said, I was just about to do that when the teacher stopped the scene. He said, because I think he could tell he was really going to go for it. Which, in my opinion, you probably should have let the scene go and seen what happened. But anyway, he was stopped.
It'd have destroyed the yearbook.
Yeah, probably. That's probably what they were worried about. So he said, but Al Pacino said it was the first time, he said, I really felt that I got beyond, just sort of acting. He said it was something real coming from me. And he said, I really felt a genuine experience where I kind of forgot myself and just really began to be within the scene.
Yeah, he was working from a true, authentic place inside himself, as opposed to some made-up thing for characterization or something. It was real.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, Rob, you've got a story as well, don't you?
Do you mean John Hurt? Yes.
I mean John Hurt.
Absolutely.
You might know John Hurt. He's like a national treasure, isn't he?
He's a national treasure. He's one of the finest actors on the planet. And in my opinion,
he's brilliant actor.
I mean, his work in The Elephant Man was wonderful, and everything he's ever done. But I was working recently on a film with him. The film is called My Name Is Lenny. It's about the bare-fist knuckle fighter Lenny McLean.
Oh,
if you know who he was, right? Yeah. And he had a cameo role in the film, but we'll steal the whole movie with it, of course.
Yeah.
And we were sitting on, between takes, we were just sitting off set on some cast iron steps outside, and we were having a cigarette. and having just a chat about things in general, really. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go for it. Why not? I'm not going to get the chance again, perhaps, to ask John Hurt this. And I said, John, any acting tips? And,
as you do.
As you do. And he was great. He was very gracious about it. And he said, well, it's very difficult because obviously there's no definitive way of doing things. There's 100 ways of doing things. He said, it's very difficult. But he said, don't learn the lines too quickly. Because if you learn the lines too quickly, they won't, and this is what he said, they won't enter your DNA. And I thought it was a very interesting way of saying that. It won't enter the fabric of your being so that you have a finer understanding of what it becomes part of you, as opposed to just line.
Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice, because I think that when you run to learn lines, if you run to learn lines too quickly, I think you can learn them by rhythm and by rote, and it becomes like a recital rather than the lines that are being lived. So I think that's a brilliant piece of advice.
Exactly.
Actually, it reminds me, and I think you're going to talk about this person in a moment, which is Anthony Hopkins, because Anthony Hopkins says that the way that he learns lines is to read something like 100 odd times. He said, and then it just automatically starts to become part of you, which is a good piece of advice.
More than 100, I can tell you. He reads the script, the entire script, incidentally, not just his part, but the entire script. Anthony Hopkins reads the entire movie script 250 times without trying to learn the lines, without trying to concentrate on his bit. He just reads the script 250 times. And by the time he's finished, not only does he know his part, he knows everyone else's part as well. But that way it goes in, and it goes in, and it goes in slowly, slowly. But before I get on to Anthony Hopkins, what he said to me about acting, John Hurt also said, he said, so don't learn the lines too quickly.
Yeah.
And when you actually speak the lines, okay, so we're not going to push the lines. We don't push anything in acting, in my opinion. Don't push it. But he and this is what he did. He leant against me like this. He said, you just lean on the lines a little bit. Just lean them forward a little bit. He said, you've got to be careful of naturalism. He said that as well. Be careful of naturalism, because naturalism isn't always truthful and honest. It might be natural, but it's not truthful and honest.
That's very true, and I think it's good for everybody watching to think about this, because there's a big difference between being real and being natural.
Yes.
I think it was Ellen Burstyn, great method actress, who said once that the difference between being real and being natural is the difference between being asleep and being awake. And I think that that is I totally get why she said that, because it is the difference between that, because you can be naturalistic, but it doesn't mean that you're bringing a reality to what you're doing.
And it doesn't mean you mean it.
No.
It doesn't mean you mean it either. And I, I believe that in acting, you have to mean it.
Oh, yeah.
And so, So that's what John Hurt said to me. But what Anthony Hopkins said was,
yes.
He said, it's all in the eyes. So in other words, it's inside. You're not actually doing anything with the lines, but it's all inside, and that in itself will do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah. Well, I think that as well with camera, especially with film work, there's that, because the camera, it can be focused really close to the face as well. So, I think that it's picking up everything in the eyes, and as well, psychologists have made a discovery that, when people go through real emotion for real, and this is why I think that the method is so important, because I think that when you're in close up like that, they say that there's micro movements of the face and eyes that happen only if you're going through the actual experience. Yeah. So you can't actually fake it. It's like they only occur. You can't rehearse them, right? It only happens if you're actually going through the experience. Yeah. So you can't fake it.
And these won't be seen they're sort of picked up subconsciously by the viewer, by the recipient.
Absolutely.
They won't actually see it, but something happens. What happened then? I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Something happens, and it's that thing we were talking about earlier. When you see these great actors, and you watch a Brando, or you watch De Niro working, or Sean Penn, in my opinion, working, and you say, "What is it that they're doing? I want to be able to do that. What is it that they're doing? Well, this is what they're doing.
Yeah,
because they mean it. That micro acting, if you will." is being picked up subconsciously by the viewer.
Absolutely.
And that's what they're doing.
You're right. And the viewer, you're right, isn't aware of why they're feeling what they feel, but it's those movements and that experience coming across them, they're picking it up.
Yeah, they sure will. And that will happen all the more and all the better if we were also talking earlier about not playing an emotion.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that anyway. It's just a case of feeling something, not investing in it, for sure, not investing in it, but not denying it either. Well, just letting it be there.
Yeah,
and then
you're right. Yeah. And you know what? When was the last? Here's a question for everybody, to think about. When was the last time in real life you played an emotion? I mean, you don't play emotion, do you? It's like emotion happens to you. It's the byproduct of something that happens. Sure, in acting, we are deliberately trying to create experiences, which is a skill in itself. But the thing is that the emotion is a byproduct of something that happens to you, and therefore, when we say in acting terms, you get told, look, I want you to play angry or sad. It's
we've all had directors that say that the results
sadly,
directors, but I mean the results directors, but which isn't really a good way forward to results direct.
So the fact is that it's not about playing; it's about experiencing it at the end of the day, right?
That's the word.
Yeah.
To experience it, and and not investing in it, but not denying it either. Just letting it be there. Not denying it, and then just say whatever you've got to say to the other person in the scene.
Well, it's like that 1 minute piece of advice from De Niro. You may have seen it, you may not, but there's one piece of minute advice from Robert De Niro.
It's on YouTube. You can see it on YouTube or any other video sharing site.
You'll definitely find it on YouTube. Yeah. And it's basically him. He said, "Look, you know what?" He said, "Do nothing. Don't do anything." He said, "Let the audience fill the moment with their thoughts," which is interesting because going back to your don't really push on to the audience, but let the audience come to you and let them fill.
Well, you know what, the audience finish off the creativity. The audience are actually a big part of the acting process. They finish it off as to how they receive it, and we can't control. I believe we can't control how they're going to receive it. They'll receive it in whatever way, but whatever they receive it, they're finishing off the process, and so it's important. Yeah.
Great. So, look, Rob, thanks very much for coming in today.
That's it.
Short and sweet. Yeah. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and
it's been a pleasure being here. Thanks.
Maybe you'll come in again.
I hope so.
Well, let's work that one out. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for watching. If you have a question, as always, you can send your questions in, and guess what? I'm going to answer them. Okay, until the next time. See you.